I have more than $420,000 invested in Tesla. So, as a big fan of the company, I also want to know a lot about how the company fundamentally operates. And I've got an opportunity to learn from a former Tesla employee, who's my friend Dina. Welcome back to Investing with Daren. Click the subscribe button to stay updated to more interviews like this. Dina,
Hello, Daren.
tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Dina. So I grew up in Beijing and Toronto, Canada, and my family is currently in Canada. I work in tech. Prior to my current company, I worked at Tesla for 3 years. That is between 2013 and 2016, as Daren said. And I am also pursuing my life coach certification currently. And I also do my own YouTube channel from time to time. So that's a little bit about me.
I'll put a link down to Dina's YouTube channel and also
My coaching
podcast and website
Yes.
in the description below.
Thank you.
How did you get into Tesla? What's the story?
Well, it's a very interesting story. So I never really thought about working for Tesla. However, I had a friend in California who was really into cars. Like he would watch Car and Driver like all the time and like magazines and all that stuff. So when I visit California, it was I think back in 2012. We were just like shopping on the street and there was a Tesla store. I had no interest and no idea, but then he was really fascinated about this stuff and he kept telling me about, oh, you know, this store, it's like an electric car and blah, blah, blah. So I remembered this brand in this store. And then fast forward to one day in 2013, I think, I was just shopping in the mall in Toronto with my parents on a random Thursday, taking a day off. And I saw this Tesla store in the mall and I was just like, oh, I know this brand. Let's go in and check it out because it's very new and very fascinating. Nobody has heard of Tesla. Most people don't have an idea. So I wanted to show my parents. We walked in, started talking to someone in the store who turned out to be the assistant store manager there. And he was telling me all about the car and I was translating for my parents and all that stuff. By the end of it, I was just like, oh, thank you so much. You know, clearly I'm not buying the car. I'm just like really interested in, and thank you so much for spending the time. And he all of a sudden said like, we're hiring, are you interested? I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was not thinking about working here. So I got introduced to the store manager on the spot and we exchanged business cards and I walked out thinking how interesting and then kept on shopping. But by the time I walked out of the mall, I already got an email invite to interview and I was just like, oh, this is unexpected. And so before I decided to go ahead and interview, I actually did a ton of research because I didn't want to work for a company that had the potential to go bankrupt maybe a year from now. So I was quite wary of the decision. And so I looked at Tesla on Google, of course, and in all the materials that I can find online and really looked at who's on the board. And I was just like, oh, these people, I know all of them, super famous, you know, very well-known businessmen in this world who would not invest in this company unless they didn't believe in it. So I was pretty much convinced then. And then I decided to interview and I got in. So that's the story.
That was quite a story, totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dots only connect looking backwards. You know, you had two roles in Tesla. You were first a store manager in Canada and then a regional delivery manager in China. What did you do in those roles?
Yeah, actually 3. When I joined, I was a salesperson, what we call ownership advisor. And the fun fact about that is we had no commissions. It's very much like Apple Store. So George Blankenship, who designed the whole retail experience for Apple, was hired by Tesla. And then the whole Tesla initial retail experience was completely designed by him as well. So it's very similar, as you can tell. So I was selling cars, but 5 months into the role, I got promoted to become a store manager. So store manager is a little bit different from your traditional sense because Tesla's business model is a retail store and a dealership combined in a mall. So as a store, you do all the things that retail store does, but also all the things that a dealership does. So we sell merch, like we sell t-shirts, hats, and mugs. So we do all the merch stuff. We have cars in our showroom, we sell cars, and we do test drives. So we park cars downstairs in the mall, and we also have to take care of all the cars. So as a store manager, I did everything from putting together the schedule every week, which was like such a huge part of my job because most people were part-time back then and young people. So scheduling, cleaning up the store to like scheduling to selling cars and managing the sales pipeline and managing all the people there and motivating everybody to sell more cars. So it was quite interesting. It was a lot. But I got to do a lot of fun things as a result that you would never imagine that you would do in your life. For example, driving cars in a mall. Like who would get to do that, which is so crazy. And also just doing all the cleaning that also I never imagined I would do. Washing cars and getting rid of trash. Getting rid of trash in store and dealing with like just everything that you can imagine. That's part of a retail life and also car dealership. So that's that. So Tesla then entered China, and a bunch of us were sent to go to China to help out with the first batch of deliveries. Because back then there's basically no team there other than a few people very early on.
我是第一个在西藏买特斯拉的车主。西藏是一个污染几乎为零的地方，特斯拉呢又是零排放，它噪音也是零。我们在这使用特斯拉的时候特别有意义，我也特别喜欢使用特斯拉。
像我平常上下班在环路上驾驶特斯拉特别堵车的情况下，我就可以放松一点。
我们有2个小宝宝。
Model X 的话，6个人进去空间还是非常大。
在开长途的时候，特斯拉的续航里程很长，非常方便。
作为一个爸爸，我选择特斯拉，在安全性上我会非常的放心。
充一次电可以跑400多公里，
续航里程我一点不担心。
特斯拉给中国带来了一种新的造车的理念和一种新的生活方式。
新能源汽车应该是未来全球汽车行业发展的一个大方向。
它的驾驶的感受是一般的燃油车比拟不了的。
全电动的，而且起步0到100只要3.几秒，那非常快的一个速度。
中国呢，刚好是因为环境的污染，特斯拉呢就很好的去解决这个问题。
我家人或者说我自己的健康更重要，我都会打开生化武器防御模式。
一开以后，我们就与世隔绝了。
从没有电到满电1个小时也就充满了，所以对我来说也是很方便的。
充电的网络特别完备。
纯电动车是中国未来的一个发展方向。
特斯拉结合了高科技、环保，
特别时尚。
特斯拉既有它安静的一面，也有它狂野的一面，
使用非常的方便，后续的费用非常低。
我们使用特斯拉，因为特斯拉完全可以满足我们的需求。
7岁的一个小女孩已经知道有电动车，其实我们就在小朋友的心中种下了一颗节能环保的一个种子。
So there, I met my next manager, who later on successfully convinced me to do an international relocation and to switch functions from sales to delivery operations. So you were asking what delivery operations does. If you're familiar with the whole purchase process with Tesla, once you put the deposit down, it varies from market to market, but at very small amounts. And then you design your car, you configure your car online with our salespeople or yourself. Your order will then be queued for production. So from that point on till the day you pick up your car, the team that's responsible for this entire experience, from collecting your payment to actually delivering your car, is handled by the delivery operations team.
See.
Yeah, so as soon as you put down that deposit and your order is confirmed, delivery takes over. And so my role was to manage a whole team of brilliant individuals in East and South China. So we kind of diagonally cut China in half. There's two regional delivery managers, myself and another colleague, and I took care of everything Shanghai and south of Shanghai in China. And we were just delivering cars. And the most crazy thing about this role and this team is one thing I'm probably going to allude to it later on as well. Tesla is a publicly traded company. And back then, even now, every quarter we provide guidance on how many cars we expect to deliver. And the stock price is kind of like a roller coaster every quarter. So everything depends on how many cars we deliver. And therefore, this team has literally the highest pressure every quarter to deliver as many cars as possible.
And back then, these were before Giga Shanghai opened.
Yeah, oh yeah. This is way before then. And we I left before they even announced this news, but I knew as an insider early on that this was about to happen, and it took years.
So all deliveries, they came from the Fremont factory.
Yes. Worldwide, there was only one factory. There's an assembly line in Amsterdam, but it's assembly line. It's not a production line. And then in China, there's zero production whatsoever. Yeah.
And Tesla is expanding their supply chain, localizing a lot. Giga Shanghai is now producing a run rate of 500,000 cars per year. In a couple of months, Giga Berlin and Giga Texas are going to open. It's going to more than double Tesla's annual run rate as well for vehicle production. In those early days, what kind of crowd did Tesla attract? Was it a techie crowd? What kind of customers did you notice?
Yeah. So what do you call them? The people who like to...
The early adopters.
Yeah,
pioneers.
early adopters, sorry. Yeah, totally early adopters. So either people who are very wealthy, there's definitely a crowd of people who are driving amazing cars already. So to pay for a car at that price range was not a big deal for them, and they were interested in new tech. And then there's also the more geeky and tech savvy early adopters. So those two were the majority of our clients.
And in those days, from 2013 to 2016, the main model was the old Roadster, the original one, the Model S.
Only the Model S.
Did they have Model X in your time?
Yeah. But very later on.
Okay.
Yeah. So mainly my time there was Model S, to be honest. Not so much Roadster, because that's not really... It wasn't mass produced at all. There's limited quantity, and that's it.
What kind of brands do you see buyers trading in from?
Yeah. A lot of Mercedes and BMWs, Porsche, and sometimes Lexus, Jaguar, Aston Martin, Range Rover, similar price range cars, I would say.
And back then, a Model S was roughly how much?
It depends on the market. So I can't remember, to be honest. I don't remember. It's been so long. But
Tesla keeps changing the price as well.
yeah, oh yeah, tell me about it. It was a huge part of my job.
You had experience of working in Tesla in both Canada and China. Both are very different types of market. How did consumers perceive and receive Tesla in those markets?
I would say in general, very similar actually, because it's so early on that most of the people we come in contact with are early adopters and people who have additional income to spare on cars like this. So they were already, first of all, well read on what Tesla is. Most of them. Some of them were brand new. And then they did their own research, I would say, and they were fascinated by what they read in the online, and they wanted to see it in person. They wanted really to experience what it's like. And so I would say there's no huge difference between the two markets, or even any market in general back then. Yeah.
As a regional delivery manager, we read that in many places, Tesla actually gets volunteers from the local markets to help with deliveries, especially in the last month of the quarter, to just close the quarterly delivery numbers. Did you experience that?
No, maybe that happened later on, but
Yeah.
I have to say every quarter was insane. Like every quarter we have to think about what are the things that we could possibly do to deliver one more car, just one more car. Like every day you have to think about how many cars you end up every single quarter. And obviously I can't share regional or market specific numbers, but really it doesn't matter which market you're in, especially like in China, it began to get a bigger share of the total delivery numbers with time. And so our roles were so important, and it was just an incredible experience every quarter. Everybody felt like they needed to take a month off after the last day of every quarter, but it never stops. One thing about Elon, though, is I would remember during critical quarters where things were maybe not looking so great, you would receive an email directly from Elon himself saying, I remember so clearly one quarter, it was Q4, he's like, I am going to be on the floor of Fremont, like all the parking area where we do mass deliveries in California. He said, I'll be like side by side with all of you delivering every single car we possibly can. And it was like December 24th, like, Christmas Eve day. And then when you receive an email like that, everybody's like, okay, we're going to work so much harder, because you just feel so motivated by those types of emails. And he really is part of the reason why Tesla succeeded, in my opinion.
There has never been a successful American car company in almost a century, and Elon publicly said that more than 2/3 of all his professional pain and suffering came from Tesla. It was really tough. What was the culture like back then?
It's a very startup culture, very, very startup. As in, I would have a role, everybody would have one job title, but everybody wears so many hats, and you would just do anything that needs to be done. It was very scrappy. We had no perks, no benefits in terms of like food or snacks, stuff like that. But obviously we have medical insurance and all that. But just getting things done with the lowest cost was basically the spirit of things. And also just things changes on a daily basis, or maybe even like half-day basis. It was so normal to deal with change and navigate and just firefight every day, unfortunately. But you also learn and grow a lot.
What would you say is your biggest highlight working in Tesla?
There's too many. It's very hard to say one. I would say I was very, very lucky in the sense that I joined, I think, at the best time when Tesla was just about to take off. And then also entering China market, which was, completely new. I got to be part of the team that set up the entire operations there. And I also was so lucky that I got to visit all the factory and assembly line. I was in Europe. I was looking at our assembly line in Amsterdam. I was in Fremont. I got into the test drive within the factory where they test 0 to 60.
Whoa.
I know, like nobody gets to do it. We were so lucky that day. And also, I got to sit in Elon's roaster because it was there. He was there, and nobody, was stopping us from doing so. Oops. And yeah, there were just things like this sounds like bragging, but all the things I got to do. For example, they were shooting Suits, the TV show.
Yeah.
In Toronto all the time, and the producers and the directors were fascinated by Tesla back then, so they were borrowing our car, and we got to go on set and meet all the cast. And there was another company that does private jets, and they wanted our car to be part of their event, so we got there and we actually got to ride the jet.
Super cool experiences. Riding an Elon's Roadster, which is now somewhere in the solar system. Not sure where, maybe out of the solar system. In every startup, there are tough moments, sacrifices.
Yeah.
What's been the low light in your Tesla time?
Okay, so
Notice that sigh. It's like, yes.
which one should I share? I think one, maybe I'll share two. One is the constant pressure. It never stops. The 3 years I was there, I don't think I took any break unless it's like a public holiday where everybody was off and we couldn't really deliver any cars, for example. That's when I took days off. But I was fully in it. Like, I wasn't really suffering, but in hindsight, I was burning out. So that's one, the pressure every quarter to deliver. The other is, you remember, like, there was a huge explosion in China with one of the ports, the main ports. Back in 2015, I think, or 16. Like Tianjin port. There's two main ports in China where all our cars come from.
Yeah.
And so one morning, I woke up to crazy news that the port exploded. So all our cars were stuck there. And obviously, there was a lot of other damages too. And then we just had to deal with the consequences of that tragedy, which you would just never imagine that something like that would happen to your job. And I remember so clearly that day I had to travel to Hangzhou because 50%, 60% of my job was traveling around all the cities with to see my team. And I was on the taxi having a conference call with everybody on, like, how do we deal with this situation? We still have to figure out how to get our cars out so we can deliver them on time, It's just crazy.
Still thinking about delivery in that kind of situation.
Yes, but then you also have to assess the damage. And then, we have people going in midnight, to check the quality of cars and how many were damaged, what VINs, and how do we communicate with the customer, all those things. And there was literally never a dull moment working at Tesla, every single day for 3 years.
I haven't heard of that incident, so I'm going to link an article in the description below because I'm curious to learn about that myself.
It was a huge one.
I'm sensing very high highs, very deep lows as well. You really are alive when you work for Tesla. What's it like meeting Elon Musk, and what happened? What's his effect to people?
So I've never really shook hands and met and talked to Elon. I just want to say, we've been in the same space together. So that's me considering meeting him. And I think he has a huge presence. He's very tall, so you won't miss him. And obviously, I was proactively looking for him in the office space anyway. And so I wouldn't know what it's like to really work directly with Elon, but I would say he is definitely someone who is very special. And he is not your common entrepreneur, and he is one of a kind for sure. He is extremely smart and hardworking. And as much hard work as we had to do being part of the company because of all the circumstances, I really do credit Elon for his leadership and really just motivating the entire company and getting things done. And that's why Tesla is so successful today.
He's also just announced last week in Tesla's AI Day, Tesla Bot. Some people criticize it, they think it's fantasy, others are saying it's a distraction from the mission. Knowing Tesla and knowing how he thinks, what's your take on something like Tesla bot?
I actually think it's a very realistic idea, to be honest. I don't think out of all the things that he said on Twitter and everywhere else, this is probably the most realistic one I've ever heard, and I think it makes total sense. I think Tesla is in a very unique position to do so, just because, like he said, like every car is a computer and it's essentially a robot. It's so smart, and you can send updates to cars all the time. So essentially, they're never old. And I think to utilize technology to take care of some of the mundane tasks in humans' daily life is quite needed and smart. And I think all his great ideas have become reality, right? The Boring Company was founded, and then there's Hyperloop and all these other random things. So I think this one makes total sense.
And Elon himself, he said, yes, he is an optimist, especially timelines. Timelines may be missed, but most of what he says comes true. It's a matter of when and not if. And they tackle really tough things. Back in the early days, Tesla was actually known as Tesla Motors. And over time, they removed the motors part. How have you seen from the inside the evolution from an automotive into a technology company?
I think we've always, I say we because I feel a sense of belonging still.
The love.
I think Tesla has always positioned itself to be a technology company and never really positioned itself to be fully just an automotive company, to be honest. Even though that is what it is for the most part, other than now we have a factory for battery production and it's going to expand. But yeah, from its DNA, I think from day one has always been tech, but it was just maybe not marketed so heavily as such back then. It's also how we communicate with our customers when we are selling cars and talking about the value of the car. It's way more than just a car.
You mentioned earlier that you joined Tesla at the best time, the right time, when it was scaling up, when awareness was building a lot. And over the years, companies change. Every company does. What's the change that you notice?
When I was there, it was very startup vibes. Everything was changing every day, very nimble, smaller in size. By the time I left was basically the day that they started taking orders for Model 3, which was just insane to process that. And the company really grew. I still have friends there, and it's so much larger now. From what I hear, it is way more corporate than before because it's so much larger in size. And I think that's very natural as a company to grow and mature over time. So if I ever go back and work there, I think I would feel very different from the Tesla that I used to work at in terms of just how much of a startup vibe I used to get versus now it's not as such.
Companies change. Tesla today has more than 80,000 employees. I think back in Dina's time, it was probably closer to 20, 30,000 employees.
I think less than that.
What's one tip you would share for those of us who are considering working for Tesla?
I would only give advice based on my personal experience because obviously the company is so much larger now, so it's at a different stage. But back then, every single one of us chose to be there because we fully believed in the mission. As in, I literally believed I was changing the world on a daily basis. Everything I do had that significance, even though I was just doing a test drive, for example, even though we're just delivering one more car. But the mission felt so big and was really part of your everyday life. And to truly believe in that mission will really motivate you to work so much harder. To go at 120% every single day is hard. And I remember our country manager in China used to have all hands from time to time to, motivate all of us. And he would always say, you all have a choice to not be here. You're here by choice. You're not here to get super high salary. The pay is not competitive at all, to be honest. It's just like normal salaries. Nobody was there to make the big bucks, but everybody was there because they believed in the mission. And that's what kept the company going. And really the people who were there from the early days and really just stayed for several years and motivated themselves to really work that hard for so many years truly because that they were internally motivated by what we're there to do. And I think that's so important if you want to work at a company that is very intense in terms of its workload. And it would also just bring you so much joy and fulfillment if you truly believed in the mission and what you're there to accomplish.
The mission is powerful to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And the way it manifests is, right now for most people, it's you get a car. And the cars aren't just fast, they aren't just cool, they're fundamentally built for safety. Do you have any personal stories where maybe your customers whose lives were saved because of the Teslas, because of their safety features?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the main things that we always talk to with every single customer who is considering buying a Tesla. The whole design of this car is made to last forever and also safety first. The trunk is empty, as you know. The engine is underneath the car, the chassis. So just from a physics perspective, physics used to be my favorite subject, so I get really into it sometimes. When you have a front impact, let's say like you crash into some object or a car, there's so much space to absorb the crash, the impact of the crash at the front, and then also there's no combustion engine to lit you on fire, and so it's so much safer. The battery is liquid cooled underneath, and so it's very safe as well. I think I would hear a story like every other week about how safe this car is and how someone benefited from its safety features. And truly, I think it's a very well-designed, very smart designed car.
Tesla published a couple of weeks ago the Tesla Impact Report, and one of the charts showcased that there are 11 times less car fires on Teslas compared to normal internal combustion engine cars. And I also read in recent years when there were wildfires in the US, people couldn't breathe the air because it was so smoky. They actually slept in their Teslas in the garage. Have you heard that?
Yeah, it became kind of like half a joke where there's the air filter in Tesla, which is so awesome that people started using it for every day as well, which is, I mean, it's very sad to see those fires, but it just shows you how well thought of the whole car is. And it's really, I think the reason it's so great and so different and so much better compared to traditional cars is because the people who built it did not think about how do we change a car, but really like how do we create an electric car from nothing. And they really rethought about everything, which is just a huge plus.
And I think that's, to me personally, very meaningful. 1.5 million people die from road accidents every year. Technology is trying to solve that with autopilot, full self-driving. But in the meantime, as we wait for the software and tech, the hardware tech is here. The cars are just built to be safe. Lower center of gravity, as Dina mentioned. There's no engine in the front, so there's enough compression room to make sure that the car absorbs the impact and not the passengers, and make sure that our loved ones are safe. If you were driving, obviously in Singapore, not everyone drives, but if you were driving, what car would you get now?
From Tesla, I would, if anything is possible, my first choice would be the Roadster. My second choice would be Model X, because I love convertibles and SUVs. So those two are my top choices. The Roadster is insanely comfortable. We've had one for our store, and we were so lucky to be driving it like from time to time, and it's just like you're basically lying down in the car. It's just so low. And one funny thing is, like, you know how those parking lots where you have the lever going up and down for like tickets and stuff? The height of the car is actually below.
Oh yeah?
So you don't need to pay for parking.
Can you imagine you pay like $500,000 for a roadster in Singapore, and you don't have to pay for parking.
How crazy. That's one compelling reason to get the car.
Free parking.
Yeah. But the wings of the Model X is also just genius. The whole windshield going all the way back. It's just so beautiful. Such amazing cars, honestly. I'm not so much of a sedan type of person. That's why I don't go for Model S or Model 3.
Dina, many of us here in Singapore are now excitedly waiting for our deliveries. And we understand that communications has been tough for Tesla. Everyone in Tesla is working really hard. So what's one advice you have for our friends here who are waiting for their deliveries and they're super excited? Some have waited for 5 years since the pre-order days. What's one advice you have for them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so excited for everybody here as well. I can't believe I get to witness that, having moved to Singapore and having left Tesla for many years already. I think just patience. So I'll elaborate a little bit more. I think one of the biggest frustrations for someone who worked in delivery team was, one, you have this insane expectations to deliver every single quarter, and two, back then we only had one factory for the whole world, and most of the cars at Tesla are custom made. Every single person placed their custom order, and then that gets queued up at the production line. And that was really, in my opinion, the critical issue that we had that had to be addressed. And I'm so glad that's been addressed at this point. But back then it was the biggest pain, because you really have to wait for those ships to arrive in your country and to service those cars, to get them ready for delivery, and to be able to communicate to our customers on time, collect payment on time, to schedule the right day where you can deliver their car. And all of that logistics is a nightmare to manage. I have never worked in logistics before. I became best friends with our logistics team because we had to understand how shipping works and how fleet works. And our customers, so funny, like the whole clientele of Tesla is just very, very, is such a lovely, the best crowd, because our Tesla owners would look up the name of the fleet as themselves on a certain app, and they would be, okay, 10 more days until they got to the port, and then they would add certain days on how many days would be a realistic expectation for their delivery. So it just gets very funny at one point. Our owners-to-be and Tesla employees have the same goal. Everybody wants to deliver the cars as soon, as early as possible. So trust that whoever is working on your car would want to deliver your car even more than you would want to get them, even earlier than you would want. But there are so many logistics factors that have to be taken care of before you would get your ideal car. One way to get your car right away is to buy an inventory car, which I don't know if Tesla has in Singapore, but with time, they're going to have more inventory cars in certain markets, and you can just pick that car on the lot. But it wouldn't be custom made, though.
There you have it. If you truly believe in the mission and you're excited for deliveries, why not consider working for Tesla? They're hiring. I'll put a link to Tesla careers at the description below. Isn't that a pitch for Tesla? Dina, thank you for that unique perspective, that look into Tesla. It's very hard to get. You're the only person I know who has worked in Tesla before. So hopefully my circle of friends in Tesla world continues to grow. Thank you for this gift of not just the information, but really the perspective, the stories, the context. And I've learned so much for it. As a shareholder, my confidence grows knowing how passionate many people are, knowing that the testament of Elon's leadership, he's not perfect, everyone makes mistakes, everyone has a lot of flaws. But just the commitment, the resilience in the team in making this happen is huge. Thank you for watching today's episode. If you found this useful, then you can click the like button. If you'd like to see more interviews, you know what to do. You can click the subscribe button. Subscribe!
Like, subscribe, comment.
Yes. We'll see you in the next video.
See ya. Thanks for having me, Daren.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.